Award-winning futurist researcher and keynote speaker Nikolas Badminton joins Canada Now. And Nick, this week we look at 2021 tech trends.
Yeah, last week we looked at some bigger, more globally focused trends. And every year I like to also turn the focus onto the technologies that are going to sort of accelerate in the next sort of 12 to 18 months and how they're going to reshape the world.
Well, as we look at the future of AI and hyperautomation, naturally, there comes talk about ethics.
Right, absolutely. I mean, we're at this point where there's a real frisson. There's a fire under the artificial intelligence community for fair and equitable artificial intelligence. You're even seeing the U.S. Department of Defense adopting a set of AI ethical principles, looking across. They've got 5 areas: responsible AI, equitable AI, traceable AI, reliable AI, governable AI. The fact is we can't operate in a world where artificial intelligence is a black box. We throw data in, it finds pattern and spits out actions, and suddenly we're okay with that. We have to have traceability in the industry that uses machine learning, big data, artificial intelligence as an overall term. They call this white boxing, the ability to see inside of the algorithm in a way. So that's going to be really important as we go forward, because if we don't have an idea of how the machines have found completely new patterns and ways of thinking, then we can't reconcile that with how it fits with humanity as a whole. So
is 2021 about finding that balance between humans and machines?
I definitely think it's about having that discussion. I mean, there's a big furore right now between Google. It laid off one of its key AI ethicists recently because they were pushing back apparently and allegedly against the system inside. And yeah, so the conversation is going to be here. There's a researcher out there that's looking for artificial general intelligence that can do everything that we can do. Combine that with robotics. We've got completely sentient beings potentially that we create ourselves, and then they're autonomous and sentient. And he says it's not when an industry, it's not if an industry will be disrupted by automation and artificial intelligence. It's like when. So we're going to start to see more and more industries. And I think next year we're going to see a lot of self-driving vehicles, for example, back office applications, lawyers' jobs being disrupted, accountants' jobs being disrupted. But like over time, even radio hosts and maybe even future speakers. Yeah.
No. You and I can't be replaced. We are irreplaceable.
But maybe you'll have a sidekick, RoboJeff.
I ought to voice that and just pretend I have a RoboJeff sidekick for the show. Well, have we fully established just how much of everything will be automated, or is there some uncharted waters here?
If anything can be written down and described, it can be automated. So any kind of job, it's very difficult to codify empathy and creativity and humor. It's very, very difficult. So those things that are more difficult to codify and to train, I think are going to take a lot longer to get there. But as these systems learn more and they're exposed to more situations, and we train them a lot more, and there's going to be a lot of people trained in the work of training and coaching artificially intelligent systems to do the right thing. We're going to see these systems becoming autonomous completely in a way. And the idea of artificial general intelligence is, an intelligence that's equal to the sentience and intelligence of man, and women, people, everyone in the world. And by 2042, they're talking about the singularity, when it becomes more powerful, the entire intelligence of the human race. It gets, this is the big debate. I've really gone into this over the past few years. I studied AI in the 90s, and I could never have seen how big this was going to be. I mean, people are saying this is going to completely revolutionize the global economy. But for me, it's about balancing humans and computers and how we come together as sort of a tour de force for the good of humanity.
All right. Well, you mentioned self-driving cars, and I want to talk about automobiles. I want to talk about transportation. Let's talk specifically at this point, electrified personal transportation. Do you see a car manufacturer staying in the game while refusing to produce EVs?
Well, there was a report that came out recently. Companies like Aston Martin got behind this sort of very hokily put together PR report that selected very particular data to tell a very particular story about how EVs don't find carbon neutrality until they've driven about 60,000 miles or something like that. Complete fallacy. And the experts, one particular guy down in Holland called Oike Hoekstra, hopefully I said his name right. Sort of, it's about 10 to 15 kilometers. So it's not the same thing. I drive an electric car. I've already achieved carbon neutrality here. People like Aston Martin have been like really dragged over the coals, and the other companies, I think Mazda's very famously been pushing against this kind of technology as well. You know what? The companies that look back and think that the world's going to be run by oil and gas or even hydrogen and these kind of old lock-in models of energy production, dig it out of the ground or produce it in a refinery, they're barking up the wrong tree, and they're going to disappear if they're not very careful.
Well, now what about solar EVs, like Aptera?
This one's super, super interesting. For a number of years, there have been cars that have promised, put solar panels on cars, and as they drive, they can generate energy. And Aptera sort of comes out of that sort of experimentation, and now they produce this rather funky looking three-wheeled car, super futuristic. I'm not sure whether people would feel 100% safe in it or not, but this proof of concept in a way that's sort of rolling off of the production line that can self-generate as much as 45 miles of range per day in ideal conditions. So when the sun's shining, you live in California, this car could be a secret to never ever having to, buy gasoline or charge up at a charging station and whatever. I find this hugely exciting. And as solar technologies progress and we start to look at, how glass becomes solar, how solar cells become thinner, maybe entire panels of cars become completely solar, then we're going to find that these kinds of vehicles are going to become standard. I think in the next 15 to 20 years, we're going to see more vehicles utilize this kind of technology. That self reliance without having to rely on, plugging in the wall or whatever is that holy grail of electric vehicles, really.
Well, cars would then become smaller, lightweight. And what I love about the Aptera is that the doors open up straight up, not from the side,
right.
They open straight up. And I love that Back to the Future look. That stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's an easy sell for me. Infrastructure, though, Nick, is still an issue. You talk about having an EV. You found that it's a challenge going on a long drive outside the city here in Toronto.
Yeah, I lived in BC. There was a lot less of an issue there. A lot of hotels and places and destinations would easily be able to charge your vehicle and whatever. Here in Ontario, it's not quite the same. It is getting better, Jeff. I mean, last year I did a long road trip, about 1,200 kilometers, and it was really painful finding the places to charge because the electric vehicle charging stations down in Prince Edward County were just broken. And a lot of people are saying that they're finding that a lot of vehicles are finding these electricity charging stations broken. But for example, I've been planning out a trip that I'm going on at some point soon, I hope. And just around Barrie, Ontario, I think I've got like 8 options for level 3 charging, so I can charge my vehicle in 40 minutes. And that's pretty good. And we're getting better. And networks like Tesla are really sort of starting to provide, good charging solutions if you already own Tesla vehicles. So it is getting better. But right now, it's still fairly painful to own electric vehicle if you want to do a significant amount of range every day.
Okay, let's take our cars up to the sky. Where are we with flying cars?
Yeah, where's the flying cars, they say to the Futurist. Yeah. And they're like, you haven't delivered on the promise of the Jetsons, man. and well, it's interesting. So, autonomous urban aircraft, flying autonomous urban aircraft, some are saying the new thing, and it is really going to be sort of taken to the skies, literally and metaphorically. I mean, Morgan Stanley research is saying that this could be a $1.5 trillion market by 2040. Wow. I'm not exactly sure if I can get behind that number. It seems fairly fantastical. I mean, Uber just pulled out of their flying autonomous vehicle taxi service right now, so that's probably to shore up their business to focus on food and vehicle delivery and also taxis. But Are we going to see these kinds of vehicles hit the skies? Yes, absolutely we will. Will we see it happen to replace the choice of driving cars? Would people at home have these kinds of vehicles? I doubt it, but I do think it could be quite useful. If you think about it, you're downtown Toronto and you need to get to Toronto Pearson Airport. Or in Calgary or Edmonton, wherever, right? Or even between Edmonton and Calgary. Yeah. Hop in these vehicles and you're good. And I honestly think that this is going to become like more normalized. And once we see more people doing it, it's going to become culturally acceptable.
I'm going to be the last person getting into an autonomous air taxi. All right.
I'm going to drag you into one, Jeff.
What will 2021 bring, Nick, in terms of augmented reality?
So I've got a lot of friends that work in the augmented reality space. I've been following virtual reality since the 90s. Augmented reality is this world of mixed images. So the real world in front of some glasses that we wear, but with things placed in that situation. And that could be information. It could be a virtual apparition of a colleague that you can talk to. It could be, something that you're designing. It's like good for architects, car designers and whoever. I really do think that 2021 is going to be the year when a lot of these companies really get over the hurdles that they've been struggling with, which is mostly form factor, the size of glasses on the face. I think that Apple's already indicating that they're coming out with something. Google and Microsoft are working on things. Facebook, very famously earlier this year, came out and said, hey, we've got these glasses. They're not too dissimilar from the glasses that people would normally wear anyway. And they're hitting the streets and they're testing out. So I think augmented reality in 2021 is going to be the proving ground. And then I think from 2022 onwards, I think we're going to start to see people start to say, hey, you know what? I don't want to be looking at my phone all of the time. We're going to be walking around and there's going to be a lot of people with 1,000-yard stares.
And maybe they'd be looking through AR contact lenses.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a company called Mojo Vision at CES last year. They showcased the technology to a lot of people. So contact lenses that you can wear. Eventually, they'll be powered a lot more easily that way as well. And it literally puts an image on the back of your retina. This is going to revolutionize how people are working in high-risk environments, military and whatever. I just think it's super interesting. I've been so excited about augmented reality. My friends have as well. It's just such a difficult problem to shrink the technology to make this happen. So, it takes a long time and a lot of money to develop hardware, but we're getting there, Jeff.
All right. Now, we've been talking 2021 trends, tech trends, that is. So thanks for that, Nick. But I wanted to follow up as well to close out from our water discussion from last week. This is scary. Water is joining gold, oil, and other commodities trading on Wall Street. Water may become that scarce.
Yeah, this is core and a part of what I've been speaking about with regards to my 2021 trends. Yeah, absolutely. Agricultural land and water and access to that. It's, the value of it is just going to skyrocket. Why do we see countries like China making big inroads into Africa to acquire land? It's not for the land, it's for the water, Jeff. And we're going to see a lot of this happening as well. Bill Gates has bought a huge amount of agricultural land and commercial land in North America. Why? I would speculate it's around the ownership of the water table, right? So, this is going to be one of what I call a geopolitical theater, something where people are going to have it as a chess piece on the table for discussion. And I still think that, Canada's going to move from oil tankers to water tankers and become some kind of superpower from the provision of water going forward.
Wow. And Canada's in good shape, at least for now, right?
For now. Yeah, we got 20% of the world's fresh water. That puts us in an incredibly strong position. Are we going to guard that and stop people from getting at it?
Wow.
Well, a lot of it's landlocked anyway. So, we've certainly got the opportunity to work out what this future trade and sort of equitable access to that water looks like.
Check out NikolasBadminton.com. Futurist researcher, keynote speaker, Nick Badminton. Nick, we'll talk again next week. Thanks for this.
All good, Jeff. Thanks so much.